Mr. Greedy, red dying greedy bleeding. Oh, Mr. Greedy, I'm talking to you, Mr. Greedy. Blessed love, yes, I Rastafari living in rain. You don't know I'll go. Welcome to Militant Voices Podcast, Season 2, Episode 13. I say we'll be here again with the third time guest on our show, Shango. You don't know I'll go. I see, aka the Fire Son. Yeah, man, blessed love. Yeah, the night topic we'll be discussing. I see why is there no African subjects in the school. And when we say African subjects, we mean subjects that depict our people and show you the king, the royalty, the warrior, the inventor, the scholar, the geographics, you know, the ones who deal with geographic and numerology and science and all these different things before all these so-called white men them claim these claims. You see what I'm saying? Yes, I am. So blessed love. We'll be forward in a moment. I say, give thanks and praise for life, health, and strength. Blessed love. Welcome to Militant Voices. I say, yes, I am. Shango Dread. Yeah, man, I've been getting into it. I say, well, you know, we discussing, you know, over the years, there's been, I noticed I was in school growing up, and I keep seeing this situation keep being played out and keep repeating itself. I say, where there is no proper African subjects in the school here, in our government school in the Bahamas, you see what I'm saying? And I feel that it's a subject that should have been there, seeing that we are all descendants of Africa, and our forefathers and ancestors is Africans. So why there is no teachings in the school that shows that shows our people in that glorious form, you see what I'm saying? That kingly character, that doctor, the astrologer, the person who how we used the first people to create the numerology, the alphabet, all these different type of things like that. But I know enough of our children, enough of our people don't even know this, you see what I'm saying? Right. Yeah, so I would know why there is no African teachings in the school, you see what I'm saying? So by you being a brother who well inclined in this historical vibe of African history and stuff like that, you see what I'm saying? What better person up on the show to discuss this matter, you see what I'm saying? So give us your views, you know what I mean? And yeah, man.
So when you understand how schooling, or what we call schooling today in the Bahamas began, right? It began essentially with the church and at the behest of the church. And even when the government did it, they used the church kind of as the vehicle to do these things.
Yes, sir.
Now, of course, we're talking about the early 1800s, some would say, late 1700s. And of course, in tandem with the church, educating people, at the same time, of course, they can tell you that everything that have to do with Africa is bad. You understand? And yes, especially with the time that you're dealing with. So that's actually the foundation of not just the Bahamian educational system, but the educational system of the Western Hemisphere. And it even got inserted into Eastern education, because you know white supremacy is a global thing. It's stronger over here with us, but it also exists in China, Japan, anywhere in the world you go. And of course, especially on the continent of Africa. You understand? So that goes in tandem with the global problem of historically entrenched white supremacy, right? Now, of course, as time goes, we have a little more control over our life and our action. So it's now up to us, those who write curriculums as well. But you know, when you understand that the foundation of it is this kind of deliberate attempt to de-Africanize us, strip us of that memory of Africa, everything in Africa bad, everything in Africa is obia and devil worship and all these things, you understand? And so all that goes in tandem with why we don't have it in the schools. Yeah. Now, even the subjects within themselves, you know, you have some historians, you have some other pro-black counterparts who they'll tell you, well, they actually do have African subjects in schools, like mathematics, you understand? Like physics, you understand? If you were to go back into the original founders of these sciences, of these disciplines, they would in fact be African. So it goes even beyond just having African subjects. You have Africans within the subjects, even
to hit on that point you made when you say, that even we do have African subjects in school like mathematics and physics and all them things,
but
right?
They just don't acknowledge
but watch that, yeah, right. Say. But they have white man also carrying the name of them who being the founder or the greatest ones to express this kind of knowledge. You see what I'm saying? So it goes back to for the Bahamas, for what I see, right? The Bahamas is one of the Caribbean countries that hold on to the colonial ways the longest. and the most strongest. You see how you saying?
We are.
And it's like, with the knowledge that already been out there for us, right? And the age we in the computer, and where we can find knowledge at our disposal. It's like we still holding on to the same colonial things that we used to be ruled by a long time ago.
Right.
And it's like we don't want to replace them. You see, and I think that's a big problem with us as a people, as Bahamians, as so-called Bahamians, you know what I mean? And we have to give up certain things and not replace certain things, you know what I'm saying? And we have to replace it with the things that is needed.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That teaching what they're giving us, that ain't useful to us.
Exactly.
That ain't useful to us. You see, they're giving us food, but you have no vitamins in it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And no protein.
And even when you teach somebody a subject, and then you made them believe that subject was born and came completely out of something that don't relate to them. So, for example, let's use mathematics as an example, right? And then in high school, you got to deal with sine and cosine and triangles and pi and all these things. And of course, they give ancient Greece all the credit for that, or I should say, classical Greece even. You know, they give them all the credit. Pythagoras theorem, named after a man named Pythagoras.
But Egypt been ahead in the kind of knowledge and a long time.
Not even just Egypt, Ethiopia, Nubia,
all them different places.
Straight down
to Sudan, Kemet, the river through Kemet, the knowledge flow to Kemet.
Yes, King. You understand?
Yes, King. Yes,
and so if you teach children that, well, the first known mathematician that we know of in history is a man named Imhotep. Now, Imhotep is a black man with oakum
and
head.
also the father of medicine.
Father of medicine,
everything,
father of architecture, you understand?
And
then so when you teach someone mathematics, now I sure, you know, they're saying to say that this one thing can solve all our problems. But if you in class and you learn that, well, Imhotep, you know, and then you teach them about Yoruba, you teach them about the Shango bone.
It will give them more inspiration to want to learn that subject, knowing that a black man was the one who's the father of it, man. You
exactly.
That's the inspiration it's about to get to. Like, we need to give our children a sense of pride, like giving them an African subject in school.
Right.
Will give them sense of pride and sense of their knowledge of self. You see what I'm saying? And it will see, because I feel like you can't take a lion out of the jungle, right? And then you put him inside a judgment point with the alligator expecting to survive. You see what I'm saying? The alligator gonna be the ruler there. So you take us out of Africa, you bring us here, but you take away all our knowledge of ourselves from us. How you expect us to cope it in the system? You see what I'm saying? So the only way we can cope it in the system is to cope it in the system the same way we used to cope in the system of ourselves in Africa. The same way we used to move to and do, be able to do that here, same way. And then that will set in its right place. You see what I'm saying? I think the children I
don't know if I ever made this statement before, but this borrowing from Dr. Clark, right? He said when you outside your cultural incubator, you understand, like you it's almost like everything's set up for you to fail. You understand? And we talking about education now.
That's true. That's
true. You understand? So I'll use myself as an example. So I went to Queen's College, right? Queen with a apostrophe S, right? Now we did this mock little thing, and now the man, all my history teachers was actually, for the most part, white people from England. And most of them gave you that whole, Columbus discovered us and, the British slaves.
The regular colonial
foolishness, right?
Making themselves look like the heroes and everything like that. Like
I had this one teacher who was trying to, I don't know what his intention was, but it was a good lesson plan. Because what he did was a mock trial of Christopher Columbus. Now, this me now talking, and this when I was about 14. You know, I chose to defend Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, because that's the knowledge at the time, King.
And what was my reasoning for defending Christopher Columbus? Well, if Christopher Columbus didn't discover this side, we'd have still been there in Africa. You understand?
Savages and all them different things.
And that's why it's so important to be in schools too. Because when you look at Hollywood, when you look at even the music, when you look at things, foolish people like Kanye West to say off the cuff.
Yes, King.
Man, them who achieving the dream that so many people have, and then they just using their words and tossing it there, and then when the heat come down, they talking about their role model. You understand? But we ain't need to get into that.
No, but I feel where you're coming from.
You understand? But Kanye West himself is a victim of the same education that we talking about clearly. You know, and then this also entwined with one of our former shows about how we didn't enslave ourselves. You understand? So when you look at other nations, let's look at Australia. Australia, them when they had a similar history to North America, where they pretty much wipe out the indigenous culture, took over the land. So most of the people there are Western European, and you get a couple people of Eastern European descent too. Now, when they learn about history in Australia, they all the way in Australia, but they learn about the history of their ethnic background. When you go to America, you have mostly European people in America. You understand? And people have, and you always have to be careful, you understand, because people often, when they hear like black history, black this and black that, they just get mad, like that fool Stacey Dash the other day, talking about, oh, well, we shouldn't have no black history, man, shouldn't have no black this. They don't understand the history, knowing that we've been so excluded from so many things.
And because
so
they end up being around this circle of people who persuade them not to identify with themselves and not to identify with their culture.
You very much.
That's all it is. You see what I'm saying? All the Oprahs and all them who you see that reach a certain, they was taught by the big man them,
of course,
not to identify with yourself and your culture. You see?
That's why the real celebrities who is try to do one or two things, they either don't ever get the same coverage,
or they have to do it undercover,
or they got to do it undercover.
You can't do it publicizing it,
right?
No, because they will get,
or you got to get a certain level, and then you got to turn that corner. You know what I mean?
They will get penalized if these big time handlers here that they doing something big for Africa or for somewhere.
Of course,
they will get called around the table. What you doing?
Best example, Akon.
Yeah, what you doing?
Think Akon is the best example of that.
Undercover, you know.
Yeah,
and we start telling no what he's doing. Until you can establish it and reach it, yes.
Exactly. You
understand? But I feel like I say in Shango, as a people, right? Okay, as here in the Bahamas, where there's a majority of black inhabitants these parts, right?
Right.
We should have an African subject in the school.
Of course.
And they're talking about a proper African subject.
And it should be African-centered. You understand? Like you learning, when, like I say, when you learn about math, you mention math coming out of Yoruba.
We should even also have a language being taught our people of Africa. We should have at least 2 or 3 languages to be taught. We should have people that who fluent in that language to come in and teach this language, because we should know of our tongue.
We could have Yoruba. We could have Twi, that's the Khan language, the same major ethnic groups that we know that we have. We could learn these languages.
Yes, King.
But the funny thing is, we done still use some of these words, so it'll actually come easy to us. You understand? And you know, Dr. Umar Johnson, and a lot of his work, he's deal with the psychological effect on black boys and stuff like that. So beside from the deliberate attempt to cut us out, there's also like a way that it works out in their favor. So if you take, like, for example, they have the term like proper English.
I just about you feeling me. So, I just about to get you say, look how long we've been taught in school to talk proper English. Right? We've been taught to be
proper English.
And we've been taught to be the proper Englishman.
Thank you.
So why we wasn't taught to be the proper African?
Right. So exactly. Who set the standard? Right. Who set the standard? Like, what is proper English?
You know.
So for example,
and all that come under colonialization.
Of course, but then it still shows you that even within the colonialization, our brilliance, especially linguistically, still shines through. Because me or you could go to England or America and we can understand everybody. And then me and you could talk amongst each other in a way that they can understand us, right? For the most part.
Like when I have a conversation with my people and I judge men phrase certain way, they'll be like, that ain't the way it's supposed to be. They come in the proper English. I say, guess what? I say African. I say creative words, numbers. And I say, what you learning is Oxford and Webster and we're speaking. I speaking at Shaka and judgment the rest of them.
Right, exactly. So even that. So when you hear somebody who's speaking in that real hard Bahamian dialect, it's like people automatically think that you ain't educated.
Yeah, or you fool. You're speaking properly.
Exactly.
Because you were taught to be the proper Englishman.
And now watch this now. So now you got to go, you say, well, now you know it in yourself. You won't go to college, you won't go to university. But you got to take the student aptitude test, also known as the SAT. You understand? So you go in there, you taking the English SAT. And that SAT is geared towards Americans. Even black Americans at a disadvantage because culturally and linguistically, they just grow different through the segregation that existed and still exists in many ways today.
Okay, before we take a break, I will ask you one more question before we take a break. What could we do, right, to try to get this kind of vibe implemented? What could we do to get our African subject in the school? How could we go with that? Because I know we could deal with certain protests and try to meet with certain people on the level of that, but I know we could need a certain amount of probably people to build it to get it strong, because 2 or 3 voicing already get it done like that. We can need a body of people.
You have a lot of people. See something like this? Is one thing that I think most Bahamians, everybody, even if they're Afrocentric, because you want to know. Because even what I find in my experience...
We could have a poll then. We could have a poll where people could call in, do a petition, and all will say yes or no to it, and see if we could get this, man.
Do a petition.
Yeah, let's get this rolling, man. Because, I mean, we talk about it behind the scenes still. Yeah. We want campaign on it, and
it's just about making our curriculum more African. And then, before we go to break, we can continue on more after the break.
Yes, King, man.
The problem is, too, it ain't only that they ain't teaching us about ourselves, they teaching us about other people, like they heroes, and they supposed to be villains. You understand?
Yes,
Queen Victoria, Woodes Rogers.
The big pictures of the big statue of Columbus in the front of government all the years. One of the biggest pirates. Exactly. They celebrate him.
Right. You understand? And so, and then of course we have our own African history that happened here in the Bahamas.
Got a big also statue of Queen Elizabeth up there in the middle of Russell Square. She too is another judgment big.
She is the waste one.
She's the head one.
Yeah, she's the waste. She should be in the category with Hitler, you know, Stalin, Ivan the Terrible, all them in the same category for me.
All them. Because don't forget the Rothschilds and those people fund both sides. They fund Hitler in the war, and they also fund America. They go gang fighting. That's how they came on from back then. You know, so we'll be forward in a moment. The Militant Voices Podcast Season 2, Episode 13 with our brother Shango. We'll be discussing why is there no African subjects in the school here in the Bahamas. I say, blessed love.
Uhuru, this is Alex Morley of the African People's Socialist Party. Just a reminder, please tune in to Militant Voices. One Africa, one nation. Uhuru.
Yo, listen, hey, big up to Ras Copper, Militant Voices. Hey, you gotta appreciate this. This is what we here for. We get a media platform right now to put our story out. This ain't his story, this is our story. There's a need for it. We gotta decolonize the mind. You see, we gotta eliminate these history stories that ain't really, you know, picture us in a light that we need to be in. So yeah, look here, Militant Voices, check it out. They can be live. Y'all know I am at Junkanoo Beach. We on there at the bar, good vibes, good food. You know, come check it out. Boom.
Yeah, man, blessed love. Welcome forward to Militant Voices Podcast after the break. I say saying, what I feel like, you know, them have to stop then. We have to stop letting our people them, you know, the leaders and the teachers and all them who be instructing us, teach us about our slave masters and how to keep loving them. I say saying all these so-called heroes, they teach us about these European heroes, the slave masters. You see how you say it? They ain't never teach us about no abolitionists, no white abolitionists. I say never about John Brown and them things in school. White man, them who help free a black man in some type or something like that. But I keep hearing about these Christopher Columbus and all these terrible, you know, all these pirates and all these different like people.
That's a good point, because you even have more honorable white man you could teach us about.
But instead, they keep teaching about these pirates and things like that. You see, so you do expect for a child for you to go to school from grade 1 to reach to grade 12, and then to come to school and he go to high school and he come to school to be placed in a system that all them years he spent in school don't benefit him. To see all the knowledge he learned can't sustain him and carry him through in the system which you're placing him in. Because what I've been seeing over the years is a lot of youth them coming to school. You might have a few who get skillful in trades and stuff like that and learn saving. You have a majority of them coming to school and working in fast food places and working in people's shops and stuff for consignment and different type of things. That wasn't their dream when they going to school. You see what I said? I sure that wasn't their dream. But that's the system they get placed in. You see what I'm saying? So more time, we need to start incorporating things in the school that will help benefit us when we come out of school, that will help make us strive in society and help build the society better economically, and also to help advance the knowledge of the children in the school. You see what I'm saying? I think I know with the time we live in now, youth them ain't really have that much drive to learn no more. And there's a reason for that too, because the knowledge they learn in school ain't inspiring. You ain't teaching them by themselves. You see, you keep teaching them about all kind of different other people. They keep teaching them about the knowledge to place them in a society that they can't fit in. You see how you say it? Yeah, man. So it's a serious thing, man.
So people have to understand how important it is to teach, you know, young black kids about African history.
Yes, kid.
You understand? So when you look at the way many of our youth and middle-aged and older too, unfortunately behave, you understand? Of course, we know our history and our experience has a lot to do with it. And we was talking about this before the show even start. But then it comes a point where you have to educate yourself. We have to start taking individual responsibility, even though we're in the system. And we have to do things to counteract what our false history has done to us.
Agreed.
You understand? So when you teach people that, you know, well, the wealthiest people in human history came out of Africa. You understand? When you teach them about these things, it gives them a different outlook about themselves and about Africa. You understand? And then you have a different outlook about each other. You understand? When you teach each other, you understand that, say you have a Ferguson and a Roll, You understand? They may not be blood family, but they know they family because, hey, their plantation was right next to each other back in the day in Exuma. And they used to help each other in the slave revolts and all of these things. You understand? So this is, and it helps you with esteem. Because believe it or not, in my view, the reason why many of our young men act out, especially with the violence, with the thuggery, being bad and all these things, is because of your low self-esteem. If you can't be no doctor, you can't be this, you can't be that, you gotta be a gangster or you gotta be tough.
Plus you was placed in a system, you was placed in a system that made you squabble to survive.
Right, of course.
You see what I'm saying? So it bring out,
right.
you bring out that B-side in you where it's doggy dog and I don't give a shit right now because that's a system you was placed in.
And that's another reason why in a global
and you never
sense,
had to live that way in Africa.
Right.
See, in Africa, everything was placed there for us to live civilized, peaceful.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
We had enough to share. And more than enough to share.
Right. We lived in what they would call, like yesterday, socialist societies. You understand?
We didn't have no need for them things, man.
Yeah. So
you see, for fighting, fussing and things, man.
Right.
Unless it was a regular tribal war thing or regular human thing.
Yeah, that's a human thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
regular human
thing. Understand?
You see,
but we ain't getting that now.
No.
In this curriculum that they have now, you know, essentially at the end, particularly historical, you understand? It's all loyalist centered. You understand? And so that's why when we hear our surnames and they just attach it to these loyalists, you understand? Not even putting in the context that for the vast majority of these cases, they was actually our slave master. And then and then they make us believe that our history start with us arriving here with the loyalists as black people, or so we just were slaves.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Now, human history in itself is about 200,000 years old. You understand? And for the vast majority of that, even the people who left out of Africa for a long time, they would have been African people
Man,
themselves.
you had the Moors and them who been ruling Europe for 700 years and things crazy, all kind
during
of
the medieval period.
Yeah, I talk about when racism was at its peak and this and that, black people was ruling Europe and St. Mary singing that. You see what I'm saying? So it ain't like we come from slavery in Africa and that's where our history begin.
Okay,
exactly. Who was we before we were slaves?
Yeah.
The people we was before that. You see what I'm saying?
And particularly even in subjects, you know, when they talk about biology, you know, science, general science, when you talk about biology, you know, when you learn about these things, again, you have to make it African-centered. Not to say that, we just going crazy over these African things, but we want to make it African-centered because we African people.
Yes, King.
I don't have a problem if I go somewhere else, you know, if I go to England and they teach me with all the English monarchies, I expect that.
See what is bugging me about the narrative, but it's be thrown at us a lot too.
Yeah.
Because we love our African roots and we love to learn about it and we also defend it. We always get classes. That's some kind of racism.
Oh yeah.
Or we hate white people.
Foolishness,
you don't have to hate white people because you love yourself.
Right.
Or because you love your own culture. You don't have to hate another race or another whatever because you love your own culture and yourself.
Exactly.
But you must love yourself first.
Right.
You must love your race, your culture and all that. You have to learn because before one could learn how to love, like they asked Malcolm one time, why you feel like white people and black people should, even though you came back from Mecca and you judgment had a different philosophy, now your philosophy changed, why you feel like we the white and the black still, he say because black people first have to learn
to love
how they can love themselves and deal with themselves first after all these years here of squabble amongst one another. They have to read the thing of themselves first and then they can learn to deal with other people. So you can know how to deal with other people. So one time we still trying to find ourselves, my Lord. Trying to find identity.
Of course.
You say we under identity crisis, my Lord.
And then the problem is too, when you have so much to not teaching about it, also goes in tandem with the demonization of it, as we spoke about before too.
Yeah, but
so if you want to teach about it, that means there ain't nothing there for you.
Right.
You understand? That means it don't matter. Well, if you only learning about European, maybe 1 or 2 Asian, and they might give you 1 or 2 black people post-slavery, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, King.
Then it continues that rhetoric that we didn't contribute nothing.
And the people with those roots is like a ship with a rudder, my Lord.
Exactly.
You're going to and fro, you say you can't find yourself and find no way.
So it's imperative that we learn about these things and not in the context of, like I like to say, the white man's rhetoric. We done talk about that before too, how they like to try to teach us we enslave ourselves and all of these things.
Yeah, we don't know.
You know, that's pure foolishness. We talking about
we need to know about ourselves.
Of course.
That's what we need to know. We need to know about ourselves because
what we used to do culturally to make money.
Identity is what we lost and we trying to reclaim that. When we was brought out of slavery, our ancestors was whipped and all that thing, so we lost our identity. We was whipped to not to know how to read, to know how to remember your name, and that you was given a different name, a different culture. We lost that. We need to reclaim that, recapture that. You see what I'm saying?
I like that lion analogy you used earlier too, and I can add to that. So you could take the lion out of the jungle and put him in the pond to live with the alligator.
Yeah.
But that lion still can have certain tendencies.
Yes, King.
Well, we should say savannah.
You
still got them savannah tendencies.
Man. Yes, King.
So even here in the Bahamas, right, we have something, for example, called Asu. And Asu is a part of the Yoruba, you understand, or Yoruba, however you prefer to say it. That's a part of an ancient mathematical system. You understand? This goes back a very long time. You understand? This goes back before Pythagoras. You understand? They find things like the Shango bone, and they're even talking about the Nile Valley, and another bone called the Lumumbo bone. These are the oldest known evidences of mathematics and trade.
Yes, King.
One found in the Congo and one found in South Africa. And these things was 10,000 years before Imhotep was here. You understand? So
yeah, man.
That's a serious thing.
Yeah, man.
So when we talk about things like mathematics, you understand? When you talk about science, even when you talk about farming, you understand? When you give it to people through their own cultural lenses, I should say. You understand? When you give it to us from ourselves,
yes,
and you don't continue that rhetoric, because people don't understand how damaging that has been to us. And you used a term earlier as well, Stockholm Syndrome. You understand? All of these are
that's what we're suffering from, man. We've been here so long now. We started to identify with our captors, and we love the place they put us in now. And now we're starting to act like our captors and all this.
And in my opinion, the number one reason why it will be difficult for these things to happen, not just in the Bahamas, but on a global scale, because African history, of course, is important for us, but it's also important for everyone else. So when if we're being truthful, you understand, when the European learn about mathematics, yes, you could learn about Pythagoras, but also learn about Imhotep. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
And then slowly you will see things start to change. But however, it'll still be difficult, because when you really start to fairly include African history,
I see
talking about
the producer,
talking about the good and the bad aspects of African history, you know what can happen? People can start acknowledging the truths and the realities of where we live in now.
Yeah, man.
A looter continues, the struggle continues. You know, a lot of people feel like, well, certain things happen, though we made progress, though we have many shining bright stars and shining lights that make it through this oppression, many black people still wouldn't even admit that they're oppressed. And then to put all this African history in that, because even if you don't talk about the bad, just to know that, well, they'll be like, well, how the hell did we go from the richest to the poorest? You understand?
Yeah, man.
So, and all of these things will begin to make sense. And then, as they call the soft white underbelly of the world, which is mostly rooted in the destruction of Africa, its people, and its culture, that can start to show itself.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah. So that's the heights we're reaching here on this podcast. I say we're about to wrap it up now. You say here with our brother Shango, season 2, episode 13. And we try to cover certain grounds. We just trying to put out there the importance of having African teachings in the school. And we need it. That's the bottom line. It's our culture, it's our people. You know what I mean? And so, like I end this by saying this, man. You can take us from out of Africa, but you can't take Africa from out of us.
Right.
Exactly. So that's just the bottom line. It's not DNA. You see what I said? And as we, every generation that goes on, we can push it in the next generation through the DNA and also through the knowledge. You see what I said? Yeah. Okay. Bless and love. We like to send a shout out to our sponsors, them. Pop-Up Cinema, Pyramid Cinematics, Jada's Fashion, and also Militant Minds Music. Come on. Right now, under this curfew now, under the time of what you call the state of emergency in the Bahamas, where we on lockdown now. The night 9 o'clock will be curfew time, so you all don't be out on the streets and that you say, and try to stay with the way of the law, because sometimes you might have one or two of them out there would have some funny type vibe in them, you see. Ain't all alike, but you got one or two of them out there, so try to stay safe and stay, you know what I mean, and stay indoor. I know about all this panic and all this what you call freaking about what they dealing with, but just stay indoor. Due to the law they set, by the law, you say, just to make yourself safe, you say.
Spend some quality time with the family,
Yeah, take this time, do some reading, some studying.
Yeah.
Yes,
If you all want to hit me up, African Glory Facebook, YouTube, and also check out Sankofa Flamingo if you're looking to trace your roots or get any personal one-on-one history. All right.
Kaboom.
Special thanks to Militant Voices, Ras Copper.
Yeah,
again.
man. Show the big toy behind the camera.
Pleasure.
My producer, you know,
Always a pleasure.
Kaboom.
Mr. Greedy, Mr. Greedy, red eye and bleedy bleedy.